Hi, I'm Jura, the time traveler, and this is my lifestyle time travel blog. Today we are talking about necromancy in ancient Greece. In books, TV series, films, and in popular culture, necromancy is considered as one of the most dangerous and ominous forms of magic. You know, raising the dead, controlling the dead, and so on. But what was considered the necromancy in ancient Greece? And for more content about the past, subscribe to our channel. And now let's get back to the necromancy. So, in ancient Greece, necromancy was communication with the dead in order to receive some prophecy. When I say prophecy, I mean some hidden information. But why would someone contact a ghost? There are several reasons. One is that you can be haunted by a ghost, so you are attacked by the restlessness of that ghost. And then you contact that ghost and you ask him, what do you want from me? Why are you haunting me? And then the ghost usually has two requests. First is to bury him or her properly, and the other request is to revenge his or her death. And then when you do as they said, you're free to continue with your life. But you can also contact a specific person, like a loved one or someone that died and took some information to the grave. And then you contact them and you ask something like, where have you buried the treasure? Or what was the recipe of that perfect bread? Or something like that. You get the point. But sometimes you can contact a non-specific ghost to ask some wider questions. Something like, what is the purpose of the universe? When will I die? What's the underworld like? Something like that. But how come the dead know the future? So it's a complicated question. You see, the dead hang out together, they share stories, they share experiences. So that is the wisdom of the dead. The key to the future is in the past. And also, it is created in the underworld, whether in the marshalings of souls preparing for incarnation or spinning of the fates. So the dead know some secrets. And when did the Greeks started practicing necromancy? Well, first account of necromancy we have in Homer's Odyssey, which is the first part of the 7th century. But that was already a mature necromancy, so it started even before that, but we don't have the accounts. And necromancy was practiced until the Christianity in the 5th century AD. But let's see, what did Odysseus do? He consulted the witch Circe, who gave him input on how to communicate with the dead. So she told him, you should dig a pit and then you should pour some libations. First the mixture of milk and honey, and then you put some water and sprinkle barley on top. And then you pray to the dead and promise them sacrifices. But because you want to contact Tiresias the prophet, you should offer some special prize for him, which is your special outstanding black ram. And then Odysseus took his sword and he sacrificed 2 black sheep, one female and 1 male, and the blood of those poor sheep was poured into the pit. And that is when the dead emerged. And then he ordered his companions to flay the sheep and to burn it whole, but also to pray to the Hades and Persephone, the god of underworld, and his queen. But because the goats are eager of blood, because it gives them recognition and ability to speak, a lot of them appeared, not just the ghost Odysseus wanted to speak to. So then he had to use his sword to sort out the ghosts. But before he could get to the prophet he wanted to talk to, his comrade Impelder appeared and he asked him to bury him properly. Eventually he spoke to Tiresias and he told him how to finish with this ritual, because Circe didn't actually instruct him how to get rid of the ghosts when he's finished with the business. But consultations with the dead were a dangerous job because it was done on the barriers of the world of the living and the world of the dead, so the underworld. And in order to communicate, the ghost and the consulter should be brought to the same state. So, by practicing necromancy, the dead were brought closer to the living and the living were brought closer to the dead. So that is why it was really dangerous job. And one of the places where necromancy was performed were oracles of the dead. And they were located on the borders of the underworld. And usually by the lakesides or in caves. 4 big oracles were Acheron in Thesprotia, maybe I said it correctly, maybe not, Avernus in Campania, Heraclea Pontica on the bank of the Black Sea, and Tainaron in Peloponnese. And just like Odysseus, people came to these oracles to communicate with the dead. So they performed the ritual and then they went to sleep. And during the sleep, the dead communicated with them. And that is called incubation. So during the dream, they would see the ghost and the ghost would give them a prophecy. And these oracles of the dead were also used for katabasis, the descent of the living into the underworld. You know, like when Heracles went to get Kerberos, or when Theseus went to the underworld, or Orpheus. And in these oracles, necromancy was usually practiced by the professionals. And we have several different types of professionals. The most basic ones are called psychagogos, which means the evocator of the souls. But we also have goetes, the sorcerers, whose power originated in the manipulation of the souls of the dead. And we also have the 5th century Greek shamans who were taught in the Pythagorean schools. And besides necromancy, those shamans sent their own souls on journeys outside of their body in a state of temporary death, so they could retire into the chambers of the underworld to acquire some wisdom. But the prime location for performing necromancy was the graveyard, because the tomb was considered like the home of the ghosts, and that the ghosts were hovering around their tomb. So that is also why people placed curse tablets into graves. Curse tablets were sheets of lead, usually of lead, it can be from some other metal like gold, where you put in writing what you want from ghosts. And that is usually some assistance in this world for ghosts to perform some acts, like for someone to fall in love with you, or to eliminate competition in business, politics, or sport. And in Aeschylus' Persians from the 5th century BC, there is a description of Queen Mother Atossa performing a ritual so that the ghost of her husband Darius could appear on top of his tomb. And she did that just to rant about how bad of a king their son Xerxes was. And how do you communicate with a ghost on a graveyard? Well, similar to the Odysseus. You dig a pit and then you pour libations into that pit of milk, honey, wine, water and oil. And then you give an offering of grain and flour, and you can also use a blood sacrifice from an animal. Just blood or the entire animal. And then you pray to the ghost. And another great place for necromancy was a battlefield, because there were a lot of angry ghosts roaming around the battlefield, and those were usually the ghosts of the people who lost the battle, because the losing side was never, almost never properly buried. So they were asking for help from the living so that they could find peace in the afterlife. But that was also a great opportunity for people who used curse tablets, because these people were unsatisfied, so they were eager to help. But there was also one more opportunity to perform necromancy, and that was by scrying. So that is interpreting messages and pictures in glistering of a liquid that was contained in a bowl. And this scrying was usually done by a boy medium under hypnosis. And this was just our first video in our spooky season special. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!